This is an introduction to a series on the historical Jesus. Let me introduce myself. My name's Rick Talbot. I have a PhD from the University of California at Los Angeles in the history department, and one of my areas was early Christianity. The series that are available to you introduces the historical Jesus. The reason for this is that much of the current practice and beliefs in Christianity have to do with later layers of doctrinal and theological issues. To get back to the teachings of Jesus, the historical Jesus's mission, his vision of his own religion and the world, I think it's important, especially for those who will call themselves Christians or followers of Jesus. Now, another reason this is, I think, crucial for modern folk who are considering looking at Jesus and his teaching has to do with the fact that our culture is essentially denigrating and, if not denigrating, at least mitigating the importance of religion in general and Christianity in particular. I think this is important to understand why our culture does this. Without knowing anything about essentially religion, or people do not like religion, but if you ask them to define it, their concept may be all over the place. But part of the issue here has to do with what our culture inherited, especially in the 19th century, in Western European culture and the Enlightenment. Enlightenment thinkers, for a variety of reasons, began to replace the authority of religion or theology with the natural sciences. Now, there's something important just to take note of this. I'm not criticizing an emphasis on the natural sciences, but to completely remove the role of religion and spirituality is problematic. Up until the 19th century, Western European thinkers, theologians in particular, used to refer to theology as the queen of the sciences. She was replaced with another queen, the natural sciences, trying to know things for certain and developing heuristic models to study the natural world. But something was lost in that exchange, that paradigm shift, that new authority for people in our culture. A thing that was lost was being able to address questions that the natural sciences cannot answer. For example, we know now from physics how to the energy involved in atomic, for example, the atomic bomb. However, there's nothing in the math or the science itself that says whether or not one should or should not use it against human beings. That's an ethical matter. Now, religion does more than simply address ethical questions, certainly, but it's a different type of question. Even universities now recognize that students have been deprived of being able to study and discern how to make rational, good, ethical decisions. So most students have to take a course on ethics before they graduate from the university. Universities, even secular universities, are also recognizing the fact that students need to have access to pursue spiritual quest or self-authentication. So something has been lost in the removal of religion as one of the approaches to understand life and deal with various issues. Now, for the purpose of this series on the historical Jesus, we are going to be able to look at a very famous teacher, a very famous person. However you interpret Jesus as the Son of God, the Savior of the world, or simply as a good teacher, regardless of that, I would suggest that Jesus of Nazareth's teachings still represent a viable way to think about human relationships and what's important in the world. This doesn't eviscerate science at all. Of course, Jesus lived in a time long before the scientific revolution. But his answers, the problems that he addressed about power, about human relationships, about love and reconciliation, I think are still very viable for our culture. And I hope that this will be able to be something that you will enjoy and learn from as we look at the historical Jesus as one option for our modern culture to figure out some of the pressing problems, especially with the hatred, the alienation, the racism, the sexism that is currently plaguing our society. Hope you enjoy it.